Since 2012, and up to the very present, the goddess of fate has presented the world with an astounding revealing and unfoldment of the distorted realities that have to a degree eaten away at the once hidden oligarchy. As well as this, having severely undermined the machinations of their trash magic troubadours. That being the mainstream media and education systems which construct the stage sets of what we are told is reality. The mainstream media is rapidly losing ground to alternative and citizen journalists, and the once seemingly indestructible concept of globalization has taken a severe beating. With this bewildering confusion at the top of the control structure, those of us who can see it for what it is are being presented with new potentials and possibilities for personal and social growth in terms of the creative forces such disruptions in the manufactured zeitgeist often unleash. At the very least, the so-called concerns that the media and politics have foisted upon the masses, adding to their neuroses and fears, appear laughable and absurd to those of us on the sidelines and who know the game is rigged, while we are watching the desperate attempts to keep the consensus casinos of the oligarchy solvent. The opening act is over and the real show is about to begin. Apart from technology, very little has changed in the last 3,000 years in terms of how our minds are cultivated for social and political control purposes. We remain the filled vessels of incorporeal realms which have invaded our personal and collective psyche, and from this external cannibalization and re-engineering of the mind generates the world we experience and how we relate towards it. From Babylon to the BBC, our consciousness, both collective and personal, still being invaded via the art of extraneous agents and ghosts, corralling our psyche into predetermined cultural, political and social enclosures. There is very little about us that is real in any honest or organic sense. Even the very emotions we are subject to are more often than not conditioned, triggered responses derived from minefields of varying dogmas and inclinations placed within us by everything from education to advertising and from religion to government. Most humans these days are more akin to flesh golems than it is often comfortable enough for us to come to terms with and accept. Generally, we are someone else, or something else's creation, or at least remain so until one day our engagement with the chimera of this engineered five-sense reality shows cracks around the edges. That what we previously assumed was solid and authentic begins to dissolve, often to our initial psychological and intellectual resistance. And from this shock, we begin to develop our own model of reality. One that at first feels more akin to a traumatic boot camp of the consciousness, but one which over time gives up a far more rewarding and less disappointing life experience when we finally embrace it and break free from the mirage. A life more rewarding simply because we are in more effective control of who we are as individuals, and are less subject to the sorcery of the trash magic of the pathological magi who made us into the flesh golems we became to begin with. Those lords of perception who are the hunter-gatherers of our psychological and emotional resources. These methods and practices of our psychological enslavement have not changed since the time when our hysterical ancestors were spellbound by the parade of idols under the glow of the blazing torches on their way to the Ishtar Gate in ancient Babylonia, at a time when the shaman and the druid was replaced by the priest class, and the twilight world of our spiritual and secular lives were replaced with the middlemen of God, who became the exclusive representatives of the supernatural entity that they either invented or were possessed by, such as the murderous and jealous Jehovah, posing as the creator of the universe. Today, the same screams of religious fundamental ecstasy and salvation are delivered towards the parades of Hollywood stars walking along the red carpet to the Oscars. Now under the glow of low-carbon spotlights, while a few streets away, some homeless person is dying in a pool of their own urine. Nothing has changed. Nothing at all from the time of the priest classes of Babylon sequestered themselves behind their guarded luxurious palaces on the banks of the Euphrates thousands of years ago. The gods and goddesses of mass media, who are the descendants of the Babylonian priesthood today, are now just as insane and pathological as the demon Jehovah of the Old Testament, as is their ever-replenishing parade of increasingly half-witted Hollywood stars and Z-list lounge acts who have taken it upon themselves to be the missionaries of this trash magic, as they pontificate to the masses on topics ranging from politics to the environment. Glorified monkeys on the media's barrel organ, who have developed an extreme psychosis in that they honestly assume that we should give a damn what they pontificate about, along with their shallow and superficial platitudes, which they issue forth as they attend another narcissistically driven temple of self-adulation for their achievements, that in terms of any symbolic meaning are no more vital to the human story than the monkey on the organ being handed another handful of peanuts. More and more ordinary people are recognizing this absurd showbiz dreamscape for what it is, and have a desire to move beyond the trash magi, so as to remove the pathological spell foisted upon since birth. More than anything else, we can see the games that they are also playing, and the hidden hands behind the scenes doing everything they can, from phony protests to overblown economic and other social woes, to the at times comical attempts by the increasingly insane celebrities trying to portray themselves as social justice crusaders and great sages, when in reality they look like the mindless and demented clowns most of them are. Their fears are not for us. Being a celebrity no longer ensures them from rotting in a jail cell or a psychiatric hospital as it once did. In a post-O.J. Simpson and Jimmy Savile age, that benefit of being famous has come to an end. This is the root of their increasing hysteria and absurdity, which each political candidate they endorse over another. No sane person cares that some washed-up TV star has energy-saving light bulbs in their multi-million-dollar mansion. We paid these monkeys to entertain us and nothing more. The anvil of the psyche is no longer being hit with the heavy blows of mind control that it once was. Increasingly, the hammer is missing the anvil, and the trash magicians are painfully coming to realize this more and more. Welcome to the lab rat that was you.